welcome to my video. This is normally not a computer that I use to do a screencast. I am doing this on my Beelink as I installed Gentoo on my system. I'm just basically testing this out and talk a little bit about something. If you guys recall an old video that I done, or not really that old of a video, but a few months ago, I done a video on me running Gentoo and it kept powering off my system, right? So I actually, this is the second time I installed Gentoo. The first time I used the XFS file system. Now, the reason why I used the XFS file system is because I was that's what I usually use with Gentoo in the past. So I just continue using it. But I always wonder, like, why is it always powering off when I'm doing like some heavy loads, or if it goes into SDDM or switching TTY, I'll just somehow my screen will just go blink and my Beelink will just need to power off, or like the light will still be on but the system basically just halts and it just doesn't do anything. And I'm like, and I was like thinking, like, it could be possibly the file system, maybe. Like, what else could it be? You know, could it be the ACPI, maybe? But I'm like, I don't know. It sounds weird that it's the file system, but hey, I was really gonna give up Gentoo. I was pissed off at Gentoo. I set up a whole system and it kept powering off. I was compiling something, 15 minutes later, it powers off. Like, I'm thinking, like, man, if you keep powering off when I'm compiling stuff, I'm like, it's not overheating. The device ain't hot. I'm putting my hands on the vents on the side of the Beelink. The fans are not revving up like full capacity, like, you know, like it's 4,000 RPM or something like that. It wasn't revving up that high. So I'm like, if it was really overheating, those fans would be really ticking on. You would hear the fans, because I put the fans full throttle, and it's loud. So if it was overheating, those fans would be going full throttle, because the way that auto fan works on the Beelink in the BIOS, it sets it up that, like, if it's really overheating, it's gonna full throttle that fan, and the fans will never full. I can hear a little bit, because, you know, compiling some source like GCC and CLAN, stuff like that, like, I can understand that it's going a little bit more higher where the fans will rev up a little bit, because it does take up some CPU power. You know what I mean? There's also a mobile processor, so it's not like your typical, you know, Ryzen processors you will see in a desktop computer. Like, it's basically what you see in laptops. So it's not a bad processor. It's actually, you know, it's a Ryzen 7 5800H. It has a built-in, it's an APU. It's not a CPU, it's an APU. So what that means, it has a built-in graphics into the CPU. So it has a Vega 8, which is built into the 5800H. I did saw a nice Beelink on sale. It's the Ryzen 9 6900 HX. Really nice device. Really want to get it, but it's on sale for, like, I think 647 with the 500 gigabyte hard drive. Like, you know, with the 1 terabyte, it's like, you know, like $40-50 more. I mean, still cheap, because if you do buy another NVMe disk for it, like, it'd be a lot cheap. You know, like a NVMe disk will cost a lot more than $50. So, like, having that extra 500 gigs would, but anyways, I'm not gonna buy it, but it's a nice device. It's a Ryzen 9 6900 HX. It has it's APU. It's an APU as well. It has a built-in Radeon 680 M, which is probably a little bit better than the Vega 8. Probably a step up from the Vega 8, but it's probably not much difference. But the processor is probably a lot better. But either way, let's continue my story. So, like, before, like, in the past using Gentoo, I always use it with XFS because I always set up my desktops with XFS with Gentoo, and basically I would just make a stage 4. Because there's a program called Make Stage 4. You can get it from Portage. So what this does, it actually makes a stage, like what stage 4 is. Basically, you can make a complete system. Like it'll basically back up your entire system of Gentoo and call it stage 4. Like, you know how you get your stage 3 when you do your Gentoo setup. Well, stage 4 is basically like that, but it's your system that's already configured. All you got to do is untar it and basically put on a system that's. All you got to do is make your partitions and your boot partition, and basically set up grub and in your file system tab or FS tab, and basically that's it. You untar your stage 4, and then you just reboot the system, and then you have your exact system that you built on one computer to it. You can just migrate to other computers. It's very, 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 very awesome. I love stage 4. That's what I'm going to be doing with this system, so I can put it on my other systems. Now, where am I going up with that? I'm going to stop using NixOS and go back on Gentoo. That's another story I want to talk about. I don't hate NixOS, but it's definitely not for me. I need a system that has FHS compliance or compliance, is that what you call it? So like basically Unix-like compatibility, the tree structure of the file system, like your system structure tree, you know what I mean? Like the Unix-like kind of structure /user /var /home /temp run or media or whatever Linux has, and all the other basically FHS structure that Linux has. I need something like that. And why did I choose Gentoo? I already have Arch Linux on the system. I actually have Arch Linux on my other 2 box with NixOS. I have a second disk, and I like to have a second system to play around with, because Arch is something that I use a lot. It's my main system. It's something I can always rely on. It always works good on my system. But I also like to play around with other Linux systems, okay? So that's why I do have a second disk, and that's what I do. I keep Arch Linux, but I play around with Arch Linux a lot over the years. Like, let's say 18 years I've been using Arch Linux altogether. Like, if you want to count all of the years that I've been off and on with Arch Linux, it's about 18 years. So yeah, it gets kind of boring using the same system all the time. So you want to play around different systems once in a while. And I do like Gentoo. Okay, I'm actually really good at Gentoo. I used to be pretty noobish back in the day, but now I'm like pretty professional. And using NixOS kind of just makes me like, man, using Gentoo is a breeze compared to NixOS. And it's not that NixOS is hard; it's just very different. When I go on Gentoo, it's just that familiar Linux system, but just a different package manager. And it also has a makefile, which is very similar to NetBSD, if you ever used NetBSD. It reminds me a lot like NetBSD in many ways, to be honest, and FreeBSD in some ways, but a lot like NetBSD. If you ever use NetBSD, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to use flags and all that. Like, NetBSD has a lot of structures like that. If you play around NetBSD, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So, yeah, so the system is running in X11 mode. Now, there's a problem, because this, if you notice, you'll see, KDE 6.1 beta, because when you're using roll and release of Gentoo as of now, it doesn't install it with KDE 6.0.5 like you have on Arch Linux. That's the stable branch of the latest Plasma. What Gentoo does, it gives you the latest Gentoo, which is 6.1. Now, running this in Wayland on an AMD graphics, of all graphic cards that you can think of, it's running my system very sluggish. I noticed like checking the system monitor, like it was like revving up my CPU. It's just going up really high. I'm like, okay, maybe there's something wrong with my configuration that I done with Gentoo. Maybe I should make a custom kernel and not use the, the binary kernel that it provides you with. So I'm like, I'll see how it runs in X11. And when I was running OBS as well, it was very like the cursor was like sluggish. Like it was very like it was slowing. Like my CPU was rubbing up so high, like it's basically slowing down everything else that I'm doing on my system. It just was sluggish. But if you notice now, mouse cursor works good. I'm recording this video, running applications, and also when I run 2-on Music Box program, it just simply crashes my it crashes on Wayland, but on X11 it runs perfectly fine. So I really don't know what's the deal with that. Also running like when I just load into KDE, it just basically it crashes a lot. It'll say K1_Wayland had crashed and please send the bug report to KDE, blah, blah, blah. I just put cancel because I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm sure that there's people probably filing reports on this anyways. KDE's buggy all the time, so it's just something I'm used to. I don't really need to file a bug report. It probably doesn't get fixed anyways. Not to doubt the developers, but it's true. It probably won't get fixed. Or just basically sending bug reports for no reason sometimes. So that's why I just don't really care. I mean, I want to help out, but I'm throwing out in the video. So if the devs are watching this video, I'm throwing it out there. Yes, we're running 2-on Music Box crashes and Wayland. Wayland, resource of the CPU is very high, running on an AMD GPU. You might resolve problems with NVIDIA, but definitely not having problems with the open source AMD drivers or something. Maybe it's me that's with Gentoo. I didn't install proper Vulkan or something, but it seems to be working pretty good. I mean, what else should I say? It's running right now. I'm running the X11's display server, but I'm running the drivers AMD GPU. It seems to be working properly. I do have Vulkan installed. I don't know what's causing my Wayland on KDE 6.1 to slow down my system. So I have no idea what's up with that. That's why I'm in X11 mode for now. So I don't know. But I got Catnap working pretty good. It was called Catnap before, now it's called Catnap. So got it working good. I got everything working good out of the box. I got all my programs. I'm missing Steam. I need to install Steam. And some reason the GIMP icon does not show the icon. But when I load it up, it shows some kind of weird icon there. And also, if you go to graphics, it does show the GIMP icon right there as perfectly as can be. Let's put it onto the desktop. Does show an icon perfectly as can be. Now let's move that to the trash bin. Now let's say I want to probably. How can you pin this to the panel? But which panel you want to pin it to? It doesn't. It pins it here. Okay, let's no. No, how? I don't get it. How do I? You gotta enter edit mode now on the desktop. I want to move that. Okay, so just I don't know. This seems different. So let's unpin that. Okay. So when I load up, let's say if I drag and drop it onto the dock here. No. Okay, now it shows the icon properly. So I have to drag and drop that? Seriously? Alright. That is very weird. Alright, well, that's one way of fixing it. But before I didn't want to show an icon, even if I load it up, what the hell? Well, if you, the icon's different there. Like, I don't know. Anyways, that's good. Good enough for me. So everything works out of the box. I installed the software I use except for Steam, which is this right here. And the power, like things power, like how I used to do in the past, like how I used to just power off. Like, you know how I just would power off the system? Like, I showed a video in the past about that, and I was being frustrated. I was really mad with Gentoo. But now, it doesn't power off anymore. This is the system. This is not my typical system that I use when I do videos on Linux or on my YouTube channel. This is the Beelink, my little mini computer. I'm doing this from the living room with another microphone, another blue microphone. But this is my old blue microphone. It's a Snowball. It's a mono microphone. It's not stereo. And it also it doesn't have any volume controls on it. So this is the loudest it can go. So you got to really talk close to it. Also, I couldn't get my Kava to detect my microphone when I'm talking on it. So I had to get the configuration file from my B550 Plus, that is the system I use to do my YouTube content. But anyways, I just wanted to show a little bit of KDE 6.0. You'll notice that there's now transparency with the panel. Before there wasn't. And like if I look at my Arch Linux system from afar, it doesn't have that transparency, which it does in KDE 6.1. Also, when you go to the menu, it also has like a transparency on the menu. I noticed that's pretty nice. It just, a lot of things seem to be refined. It looks a lot better. But on Wayland, it is not working great on Wayland. It was working good on Wayland before in the past, but I noticed that since the kernel update of 6.9.5, and well, for one thing, at least, you know, my system's not powering off. It's been like this. Like, I set up my system, I installed stuff, I actually copy files from my other hard drive on this system to my Beelink so I can get all my configuration. So basically, I copy all my dot files and all that to this system here. Instead of using my backup disk with Deja Dup. So I just had, I have an Arch Linux system on this system already, so I just basically copy my home directory onto this directory. It's pretty much the same thing, you know, same username, same stuff. It's Linux is Linux. It'll work great on it. But anyways, so yeah, I'm using Gentoo. It's working good. Knock on wood. You know, it's not powering off, and I think it was the file system. Because I'm using external forward the system now. If I do fast fetch, oops. Like, I don't want to use X11. I'm gonna go back to Wayland, but fast fetch here, it does show. Well, it's called Plasma 6.0.90. It's basically 6.1, I'm guessing. But so why was I using fast fetch anyways? Where I'm getting at with this. So where was I getting with this? What I wanted to check. I forgot, man. So is it? Oh yeah, the file system. So disk, yeah, external forward. There you go. See? So, and it's running stable. Like I was saying that in my Discord. Like, yeah, I think it's XFS is probably booting my system down. And one of my friends, like, I don't think that is the partition or file systems that's is causing the problem. I'm like, I think it is. And I just like. I got mad, right? Like if I say if it shuts down my computer one more time, if it powers it off, I'm deleting the system. I'm done with it. And that's exactly what I did. I booted up to Arch Linux, and I basically just deleted it. I went to gpart and just wiped it off. Then after about maybe an hour later, just thinking about playing video games, and I'm like, I don't feel like playing new games. Cause I was kind of bummed out with Gentoo. That's most likely why it just kind of bummed me out. Then I'm like, I'm gonna reinstall again because I was doing some research. I was going kind of like obsessive with why it's powering off my Beelink. Then I was thinking about buying another Beelink, which is why I was talking about that Beelink, the Ryzen 9 one. But I'm not gonna buy it. It's a good price, so it's like 25% off. But I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna buy it. The one I got now is good. It works really well. It's just I don't know what was powering it off. Then I'm like, it could be the power system. It could be this. It could be that. Like it could be overheating, but the device doesn't feel hot, and it's not rubbing up the fans as loud as it should. I don't really think it's overheated. Because other systems, I use it. I even compile source programs on Arch Linux on the Beelink, NixOS as well. Not NixOS, but Beelink, Fedora, and other distributions. I compile source files on it on this device a lot of times, and never had any like power off or it overheating or whatnot. And I don't think Gentoo was overheating either. I just think there was something was wrong with a particular configuration with a particular file system, perhaps. Then I just used external 4, and I'm like, I'm gonna redo the system again. I'm gonna redo it really good, and I'm gonna just build everything up from the live CD. And then once I'm done installing all the software, build up the system, everything, have it all set up, grub's all set up, the kernel's all set up, everything's set up, my make file. And I say well, like if I basically do okay, I don't have to go to root. So nano portage make. So this is basically my make file here, and I basically set it up with J-J8 and video card AMD GPU. That's my drivers I'm using, and I got license all accepted star. I'm running on the roll and release. I got my mirrors here, got my my stuff set up here, got my global use flag set up here. So I added a few things. I didn't have much to it, but anyways, it's pretty basic Gentoo, and it doesn't have to be over the top either. I like things keep it simple. And with Catnap, it doesn't have VIU on the system, but you can do a sudo cargo install VIU, and what this will do, it will install it from. You can do it also without. You don't have to go to root. I do a root because I want the binary. It puts in your root directory in a .cargo folder in your .config. I just moved the binary to /local/bin, and that way it will load images with Catnap. Because Catnap needs VIU. What VIU is, you can load up image in your terminal. That's what it does. So it works with Catnap. Catnap, you could load up an image with a system, fetch program. So that is pretty cool. I got that set up. That worked out of the box. No issues. On as to NixOS, it has the 1.4.0 version, and you need 1.5.0 version of VIU. And I cannot compile the source or install cargo because somehow it doesn't detect a CC compiler on the system. There's no GCC, there's no clan, and they say, well, you got to use Nix Shell, but Nix Shell is basically an isolated environment like Docker, and I don't want to do that. That's why I'm looking at Nix, and Nix is totally it's a totally a developer system. Let me tell you why. Because of the nature of the design of the system, right? It actually has its own NIC language, so it's aiming for programmers. If you're a programmer, you're gonna love Nix OS. I mean, I could program. I'm not the greatest programmer. I'm not like the world's greatest programmer. I'm not. But I can do some programming. I mean, the top. I do a lot of the programming I learned is self-teaching myself. But I'm just saying, like, Nix OS is targeting developers more likely. Gentoo is just a regular system. It's just source based. It's kind of like Slackware in that regards. Like, but it has its own package manager, so it makes it more. I mean, I'm not saying Slackware has one too, but I'm just saying like the package manager on Gentoo is a lot better than Slackware. So yeah, it's working good, and I'm actually doing this screencast. It's working fine. Like, I had no power off on the system yet, and usually it would have one eventually. But so far so good, man. It's been running really, really good. I will probably, my next video, I will give feedback of how Gentoo is working on my Beelink. I'll be continuing using the system, just playing around with Gentoo. And I don't know what's going on with Wayland on the 6.1 KD on Gentoo with my device. I don't know, it's sluggish for me. That is, I don't know what's the deal, to be honest. But anyways, the video is probably getting quite long, but yeah, that is my rant of me going back to Gentoo. I will eventually take off Nix OS, probably on the B550 Plus. I will keep Nix OS on the B550A, as I want to leave Nix OS as well to play around with, because I still like Nix OS. I'll just have it on one computer instead of having it on two, and I'll have Gentoo on my YouTube content creator PC, and my good box computer I use for Linux and all kind of Linux stuff. I do a lot of Linux stuff on there. As my other box, I use it for gaming on Linux, or it's my gaming machine. I just prefer to use Linux as my platform. I don't use Windows, so I use Linux. I usually run Arch Linux to play games, but yeah, I'm gonna keep Nix OS on there because that's the system I'm just gonna play around with. But basically, the main system on that computer is Arch Linux. But I can use Gentoo on my B550 Plus and also on my Beelink to play around with. I'll still keep I always use Arch Linux, but I mean, like, I'll just keep it there. I'll just update it when it needs to be updated, but I'm gonna stick with Gentoo to play around with, and I might just main Gentoo for a while. I do like Gentoo a lot. I'm a big fan of Gentoo. In the past, I know I complain about it, I ditch it, and I come back to it. This is how I am. I do this with a lot of systems, but I'm a really big fan of Gentoo. Gentoo does piss me off, but it is working good now. So I'm liking it now. So I like Gentoo now. For now. I'm just kidding. I always like Gentoo. I never hate Gentoo. It's one of my favorite systems. Anyways, guys, have a good one. Cheers.